Okay, so up to this point for percents, right? We've talked about, we had our kind of discovering percents, using the percent model for our inquiry lab. We've talked about using a percent proportion, a percent equation. Then we use both of those to, we utilize both of those, or at least the percent equation yesterday when we talked about discounted markup 2 days ago. Okay. Today we're going to pause on something like that, and we're going to talk about, related to percents, something called percent of change. Okay. So basically what percent of change is if you have an item that you want to buy and it's like $175, and then you go back a few months from now and for whatever reason it's now $190. Okay, we know that it increased in price, but if you want to know, of course, what is the percent that it went up? Okay, that's kind of what this is. All right, so there is a percent of change. So that's actually our very first phrase. So percent of change, everyone? Percent of change. All right, so here's what your book says it is. It's the ratio of the increase or decrease of an amount to the original amount. Okay, so here's what that looks like, and I'm going to go ahead and just write it with you guys because I don't want you writing like that. I want you to write it like this. The ratio, we're going to write it in fraction form, is the amount of change, the amount that the number changed, over the original amount. And that's what I want you to write in your little box there. Okay, now there's two different types of percents of change. And once you see them, you'll be like, oh, of course. It's pretty basic, but there's two types. The first type is a percent of increase. Everyone? And here's what your book says it is. It's the ratio of an amount of increase to the original amount. Okay, expressed as a percent. We'll get into that in just a bit. So, for example, a problem that you would have to solve is like $120 jumps to $150. That's getting larger in price, so you could find the percent of increase to that problem. Now you guys probably know, if like I said, you're using common sense, right? The other percent of change is a percent of decrease. Everyone? Percent of decrease. All right, so this is the ratio of an amount of decrease to the previous amount. It's expressed as a percent, and then your book adds on a little more. It says it's a negative percent of change. Basically meaning it's going down. So in your little box, it's going the opposite way. It starts at $150 and then it goes down to $120. Okay, and we do have one more. Now this one is, I just gave you an example of a percent of change, all right? However, this one, let's say that you go and you go to a restaurant, you sit down, you eat, and you're trying to calculate in your mind just really quickly, as fast as possible, what the price of the bill is, okay? And you turn around and let's say you put down $30 and they bring it out and the bill's actually $45.60. So you could figure out how much you were off by your estimate, which would have been a pretty big chunk, okay? But what that was called is you made an error. Well, what you're going to learn today, what we're going to talk about is what is the percent that goes with that? And that's what this next word is. It's percent error. Everyone? Percent error. So, this is a measure of the difference between an estimate, a prediction or measurement, okay, so any of those, and the actual, which means the actual measurement or the actual price or the actual whatever they're talking about. In your little box, this is the ratio. So write it as a fraction as well. This is how you solve one of these. You're going to find out what the amount of the error is, put that on top, and then you put the actual value on the bottom. Okay? All right, so 4 vocab words. Questions? All right, go ahead and grab your book. Let's go ahead and after you get your book, flip over to page 272. 272, and then eyes up here when you're ready. All right. Thank you, those of you who are ready to go. If you don't have your paper all ready, go ahead and put your name on it. Assignment number, dates, book page. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the directions at the very top of 272. All right, let's go ahead and close read them. It says find the percent of change. Round to the nearest 10. If necessary. Then state whether the percent of change is an increase or a decrease. All right, so here we go. Now, before this very first one, if you notice, I made myself a little note. I put I do. All right, so all I want you guys to do, you can actually put down your pencil for a second, relax, but I can't really say relax because your mind shouldn't be relaxed. I want you to watch carefully. Okay, I'm going to do this, and then we're not going to write steps right now, and then we'll go through and we'll do one of the problems with steps. All right, so here we go. If we take a look, it's saying that whatever it is, it goes from 56 inches, okay, and it expands to 63 inches. So here's what we do. Okay, if I need to find out the amount of change, what I need to do is on the very top of my ratio, I'm going to put how much it changed. Well, I can do that by subtracting. If you need to borrow, you can, but it changed 7 inches. On the bottom is the original. The original is, of course, what it started with in chronological order. What was the start? And it was 56. So I could actually say that is, you can even call it the fraction of change if you want, but basically it's our answer in fraction form. So what I can do is I can go ahead and just divide it. 7 divided by 56 equals 125 thousandths. Move that decimal over 2 times. 12.5%. I need to double check. See, what is it round? Round to the nearest tenth? It already is. That would be my answer. Except it is going up, so it is an increase. 12.5 or 12.5% increase. That's what you're doing tonight. Okay? Okay. If you'd like to, I'll give you about 15 to 30 seconds. Go ahead and copy that down. That is one of your math problems, so you can copy that down really quickly. Okay. So here's the problem that I want us to do together. It's the same kind of problem, but it's not like a little phrase like this. It's actually a story, a little word problem. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at problem number 3. And let's go ahead and close read it. Here we go. On Saturday, Smoothie Central made $1,300 in sales. On Sunday, they made in sales. What is the percent of change from Saturday to Sunday? And is it an increase or decrease? Okay, so it's just same kind of problem, just it's in story form. So here we go. All right, step number 1. Here's what I want you to do. At the very top of your page, I put a little star by it because I just want you to do it once. Okay, where you have something to look at. Let's go ahead and write just the format of how to write these ratios. Remember, on the top, you're going to go ahead and put the amount of change. However however much the one item changed from from one day to the next. And it's amount of change over the original amount. Now, I want to make sure this is clear. Guys, original amount is not the original thing stated in the problem. Don't always assume that the first number in the problem is your original amount. You have to remember, a lot of times it will be, but it depends. Like they could flip-flop them, especially in word problems. So you need to think about which one happened first in chronological order, meaning in time. Okay? So this particular one, right, it says Saturday was $1,300, Sunday was $900. But be careful, there might be some problems that say, it starts off saying Sunday was $900, but on Saturday it was $1,300. And no matter which way you say it, $1,300 is still the original because Saturday comes before Sunday. Okay, so just be careful of that. All right, now with that said, let's go ahead and do step 2. And that is, we're going to go ahead and we're going to calculate the amount of change. Now listen, for note purposes, I'm going to go ahead and write this down, and you need to as well. Not that I hope most of you guys can do this in your head, but just where you remember, just take the two values and subtract them. Okay, so the amount of change, of course, is $400. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and write that on the top of my ratio, 400. I don't have to put units yet. Okay, now step 3, of course, is put the original amount on. So just be very careful with that. And we just talked about it, right? On this one, it does mention Saturday first, and that's what comes first. So it was $1,300 originally. Okay, now step 4, I'm going to go ahead and use a calculator to convert it to a decimal. So just put 400. Now listen, if you want to use a fraction form to change it to a percent, feel free. But I'm going to go ahead and put 400 divided by 1,300 equals, 400 divided by 1,300 equals, and yep, these are correct. So my decimal is 0.30769, and it keeps going. But remember, I'm going to round. But before I round, step 5 is I need to put it in percent form. Smooth the decimal over 2 times. So we end up with 30.769%. You could say step 6, or even step star if you want to call it that. Remember to round. So it does say up at the top, right? Round to the nearest tenth. So the nearest tenth is the 7. The 6 makes the 7 go up, and we end up with 30.8%. And yes, step 7 is don't forget. Definitely, this is a step that a lot of people do forget. Don't forget, because it's telling you, it's asking, is it an increase or decrease? It is a decrease. Now, listen, this is something that you need to make sure that you do, especially if they don't ask for an increase or decrease. But many times, you will need to, your answer, if it's a decrease, you show a drop by putting a negative 30.8%. Okay, remember what the definition said. It's a negative value. All right, so that's what it's talking about. So it's not very hard. It's just being very careful about all the little things with this. Okay, making sure you're reading the problem correctly, putting the numbers down the right way, making sure you're rounding correctly. Don't forget increase, decrease, your negative, your percent sign, just those little things. Okay, but overall, it's not too hard. All right, just be careful about the little things. Be precise. All right. All right, questions before I let you try one. All right, here we go. Number 15. Problem 15. Go. Okay, how many of you need more time? All right, checking with you at about 30 seconds. Okay, anyone need more time? Okay, a few more seconds, and then I'll let you guys turn and share. Okay, 30 seconds. Go ahead and turn to your neighbor and share. Go. All right, here we go. All right, so problem 15 says a survey of gas prices in January showed the cost per gallon one year was $2.649. The following January, the cost per gallon was $2.999. Find the percent change in gas prices from one year to the next to the nearest tenth. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. And I have my amount of change over original amount written down up here already. So the amount of change, all right, the amount of change is going from 2.999. And remember that 9 is like a tenth of a cent. That's what it is. You ever see those little fractions on the side? If you ever look at the board of how much it is per gallon at the gas station, that's what that's talking about. Minus... So I subtract from that 2.649 equals. So the amount of change ends up being 35 cents. Okay? So what I then turn around and do is write down, of course, what's the original amount. So if I reread this, it just says one of the years it was 2.6. Then it says the following January it was 2.9. So it was the first number that is the original. So it's the 2.649. So I go ahead, take that, divide it by that, and I'm going to get a decimal, 0.132125. I'm going to move it over 2 times to the right. to get my percent, which is 13.2125%. And if I round it to the nearest tenth, I'm going to go ahead and look here. 1 makes a 2 say the same, so it's 13.2%. And if I take a look, it increased. So I don't need to worry about putting a negative here, but I will put the word increase. 13.2% increase. All right, questions? All right, so here we go. One more little mini break for you guys, and let's take a look at a percent error problem. Okay, it's very similar in a way that you're going to solve it. It's just a different. We're going to start with a different ratio. All right, so here we go. Problem number 4. It just says find the percent error. All right, so it says the estimated distance was 60 miles. And the actual distance was 75 miles. This was estimated. This is actual. Okay. So remember what we wrote before. It's the amount of the error. Well, this is 75 minus 60. Well, the amount of error is 15 miles. That's how much it was messed up by. They missed it by. And then it's by. Remember on the bottom is the actual amount. So it's 75. So, if I grab my calculator, 15 divided by 75 equals 0.2. And we should know by now, move that over twice, it's 20%. Now, it isn't starting with 1 and going up to 1 or starting with a number and going down. There's no increase or decrease in percent error. Okay, it's just they were 20% off. Okay, and so on number 4, okay, that ends up being just your final answer. Okay, so really quickly, go ahead and write that down. And let's go ahead then and let's write notes on problem number 6. All right, number 6 says the estimate for the amount of rain in May in one part of Texas was 5.6 inches. The actual rainfall was only 2.4 inches. What was the percent error of the estimate to the nearest percent? So here we go. Step 1, and just like step 1 in percent of change, we're going to just write this up at the top once as a reference point, just to look back to. So remember, the top number is the amount of the error. So like on the last one I just did, right? 60, that was off by 15, so that's why 15 went on top. On the bottom is the actual amount, the true amount, not the estimate. Oops. Okay, so step 2 is I'm going to go ahead and find out the amount of the error. Well, on this problem, right, it is 5 6/10 inches. I'm going to subtract from it 2 4/10. So I don't even have to use a calculator for that, right? 3 2/10 is the error. Step 3 is write down the actual amount. So what is the true amount? If I take a look, it says the actual rainfall is 2.4 inches. So that goes on the bottom. Step 4, I'm going to go ahead and find the decimal. So this is fraction form, 3.2. I'm going to divide it by 2.4 equals, and let me just double check that, make sure I didn't hit the wrong button. Like I did right there. Okay, so we have 1.3333. It's a repeating decimal, so I could actually probably just put 1.3 in bar notation. I just extended it in case I wanted to round or needed to round to a certain something, like a hundredth, for example. It might help me out a little bit. Okay, step 5 is put in percent form, which if I move the decimal 2 times over 1, 2, it becomes 133.3 with bar notation percent. Now comes step 6. And remember, always check what you need to round for. And don't fly through this, guys, because a lot of us might make an error here. So what's the percent of error of the estimate to the nearest percent, meaning the nearest whole percent, which is the ones. That 3 makes that 3 stay the same, and we end up with 133%. Don't need to worry about increase or decrease.